just turned the corner from my bathroom to my room when I saw something slide under my bed. It was a fraction of a second, but something definitely moved down there. I froze. His eyes were flat and dark, like they were looking through me rather than at me. As soon as I walked into my room, I was slapped in the face with this overwhelming stench. My eyes stung and I braced my mouth and nose. I rubbed my eyes and instinctively looked up to the mirror. Instead of seeing my face, on my mirror were dozens of my missing pet flyers, all with Bandit's eyes scribbled out in black ink. I screamed and clumsily stumbled back out of the bathroom. Welcome to another episode of Drawing and Telling Horror Stories with Mr. Beast. We got a creepy one today. Check this out. I just got off the phone with the police, but I'm afraid this is something they can't help. I'm currently staying at a girlfriend's house. I can't go back. I'll never go back. It all started a week ago. No, I didn't just move in. No, I didn't get a new pet or friend or anything. I've been living in this house for 2 years, in the same room, with the same bed, and the same pet rabbit named Bandit. I've worked at the same grocery store for 3 years as a cashier. No, the first night was a night like any other. Until it wasn't. I had just put Bandit back in his cage for the night. I have him out during the day, but not at night because I got sick of chewed cords and stepping on little poop pellets. I brushed my teeth, used the toilet, and was just getting into bed. I had just turned the corner from my bathroom to my room when I saw something slide under my bed. It was a fraction of a second, but something definitely moved down there. I froze, my eyes widening to try to catch any other movement. Maybe I didn't close the latch when I put Bandit away? I briskly walked across the room to the light switch and flicked it on. Bandit thumped in surprise, just being woken up by the sudden light. He was in his cage just fine. My heart started to flutter in my chest. What is under the bed? I took a deep breath to brace myself and crouched beside my bed. In one swift movement, I lifted the covers and looked. There was nothing. Well, that's that. I must have been tired or something. I turned off the light and went to bed. The next morning, I woke up just as the sun kissed the horizon. I had breakfast, let out Bandit, and fed him some hay. He happily munched away. It was 7:00 a.m. when I decided to shower. I undressed and turned on the shower. I have a habit of turning the shower on before I get into it because I just can't stand the feeling of the cold shock of the first water splashing me. I'm glad for this habit because the water that came out smelled horrible. I peeked behind the curtain, holding my breath, and saw that the water was a disgusting brown color. I quickly shut off the water and redressed. I guess I won't be showering today, I thought. I called a plumber on my way out of the door. I luckily had an early shift that day and the plumber had availability in the afternoon. He said he'd come check it out around the time I got off work. Great, I'll see you then, I said. The plumber hung up without saying goodbye. My shift went by, and before I knew it, I was clocking out and on my way home. As I pulled into the driveway, a truck pulled in behind me. I could see a brightly lettered decal on the side of it, and could just make out the company name. It was the plumber. I met with him there in the driveway. He was a tall and wide man. He towered over me, easily twice my size. Yes, hi, I'm Amanda. Thanks for coming to take a look, I stammered. The man nodded at me. His eyes were flat and dark, like they were looking through me rather than at me. He wore a simple white t-shirt and stained denim jeans. He looked like a typical plumber, but I couldn't shake the feeling something wasn't quite right. Nevertheless, I led him inside and into my bathroom. Like I said on the phone, it's the shower, I pointed, and the plumber walked past me. I know, his voice was low and dry. It didn't sound like the man I had spoken with on the phone before, but just assumed the company sent a different man. I left him to his work and played with Bandit for a bit. Some time had passed and I hadn't seen or heard from the plumber. I went to check on him in the bathroom, but he wasn't in there. Did he leave? I looked out the window in the front room and saw that his truck was gone. I didn't even hear him. He had to have walked right past me to leave. He didn't even give me a bill. I checked the shower and it now ran clean, so he did fix it. I called the plumbing company. Sorry, I got caught up with another appointment. Would it be alright if I swung by now to take a look at your shower?
Oh my god.
My blood turned to ice. My lips felt numb. You didn't already send someone? What? No, I don't have any employees. I do all of the jobs. Is everything alright?
Uh-oh.
I could hear concern in his voice. I quickly told him that I didn't need him to come over any longer, and that I was sorry for wasting his time, and hung up. Someone was here. I know someone was here. There was a stranger in my house. I clambered around the house in a panic, locking doors and windows and shutting blinds. I dialed and hid in my room. A cop came by and took my statement. He took notes about the plumbing service I had called and details of the truck. He told me to relax, that this all seemed like a prank and to not worry about it. It didn't feel like a prank, but I thanked him anyways and he was sent on his way. The next 2 days were uneventful. Just went to work and came home. But 2 nights ago, I came home from work a bit later than usual. I was worried Bandit had gotten in some trouble because I didn't leave enough food out for him. That's when he is naughty. I searched around the house but couldn't find him anywhere. I checked all of his hiding spots, even in places he never went, but I couldn't find him. The last place I had to look was under my bed. As soon as I walked into my room, I was slapped in the face with this overwhelming stench. My eyes stung and I braced my mouth and nose. It smelled like the muddy water that came out of my shower the other day, but way worse. I plugged my nose and stumbled in. I feared the tub had backed up and overflown, but that fear was subsided when I noticed there wasn't any water flooding in. I checked the bathroom and it was just as I had left it. Confused, I turned back into my room. At the edge of my bed was a small puddle of something dark. I squatted down and got a closer look at the fluid. It was almost black, like oil, and was definitely the source of the smell. Had this come from my rabbit? I looked under the bed and nothing was there. At this point, I was certain Bandit must have gotten outside somehow. I tore the house apart looking for him, but he wasn't there. I made some missing flyers and posted online about it in hopes that someone may spot him and bring him home. I spent the rest of the night hanging up flyers until I ran out. It was midnight by the time I gave up for the night. I curled up in bed and tried to calm my racing thoughts. I was so afraid for my bunny. 1,000 scenarios played out in my mind. I barely noticed when a tapping sound had started from somewhere in my room. At first, I thought it was Bandit, so I shot up in bed. But soon the feeling of dread bubbled up my throat. The tapping was coming from under my bed. It was methodical and rhythmic, like a nail tapping impatiently on a counter. I wanted to look. I tried to rationalize with myself that it was Bandit. But I couldn't. I was frozen and fear shackled me in place. The tapping continued for what felt like hours, but was probably only 10 minutes. It stopped just as suddenly as it started. I tucked in my feet and curled up in the middle of the bed until morning. I woke up later than I usually did. The sun was already climbing in the sky. I checked my phone for any calls or messages about Bandit, but had none. I sleepily stumbled to the bathroom. I rubbed my eyes and instinctively looked up to the mirror. Instead of seeing my face, on my mirror were dozens of my missing pet flyers, all with Bandit's eyes scribbled out in black ink. I screamed and clumsily stumbled back out of the bathroom. I called my best friend Jenny and told her everything. It all came out of my mouth like vomit, uncontrollable and messy. The plumber, Bandit missing, the flyers, and the tapping. You need to get out of your house. What if that guy's still in there and that's what you heard? Jenny gasped. I reassured her that if he was, I would have found him the day before when I was looking for Bandit. Still, she insisted I stay at her place and to call the cops again. I agreed to calling the police again, but I hated putting people out, so I refused to stay the night. But I did promise her I would if the cops suggested it. I called the non-emergency line. I listened to the silence for a moment, looked at my phone to make sure I was still on the line, then spoke. Hello? Suddenly, a song started to play on the other end. Little bunny foo-foo, hopping through the forest, scooping up the field mice, and bopping them on the head.
Oh my God!
I frowned at my phone and hung up. Did I call the wrong number? I redialed, making sure to check the number. It rang a couple of times and played the same song. Little bunny foo-foo, hopping through the forest, scooping up the field mice, and bopping them on the head. Down came the good fairy and she said, Little bunny foo-foo, I don't want to see you, scooping up the field mice and bopping them on the head. What the hell is this? I yelled into the phone. Tears welled up in my eyes. I'll give you one chance, and if you don't behave, I'll make you go away. The next day, little bunny foo-foo, hopping through the forest, scooping up the field mice and bopping them on the head. Little bunny foo-foo, I didn't want to see you do that. I gave you one chance. Three, and now you're gone. Poof! I threw the phone on my bed and sobbed. Someone was messing with me. I gathered some clothes and essential items and called out of work. I don't remember the drive to Jenny's. She met me outside as I pulled into her driveway. Between sobs, I told her what had happened. She agreed that someone had to be pranking me, or worse, stalking me. We went inside and she set up her futon for me to sleep on that night. We spent the day watching movies and eating junk food. I couldn't stop thinking about Bandit though. That song with the changed lyrics echoed in my head all day. My heart twisted painfully in my chest. I feared the worst. Jenny did her best to comfort me. She told me over and over that we would find him, but I don't think we will. It was 7 when I realized I forgot my phone charger. Jenny has an iPhone and I have an Android, so she didn't have one I could borrow. I insisted swinging by my place one more time to grab it. I don't think it's a good idea. Jenny shook her head. I begged her. I suggested she even come with me. I told her I desperately needed my phone on just in case someone found Bandit. Reluctantly, she agreed to come with, insisting we leave as soon as we could. We pulled in just as the sun started to fall to the west. The sky was painted in soft purple and orange. I unlocked the door and Jenny pushed past me as we entered the house. She briskly walked into my room, grabbed my phone charger, and came out. Got it. Let's go, she said as she made for the door. I stopped her, fed up with the weird sense of urgency. I mean, I'm freaked out, but she was really scared. I could see her hands were trembling. There was something under the bed, she stammered. My ears started to ring and I felt faint. What? Is all I could manage to say. There's something under your bed and we need to leave. Her voice was just above a whisper. I looked behind her in the direction of my room and saw small puddles leading from my room to Jenny. The smell hit me and I nearly gagged. My room was flooded with that stuff. I pointed to the puddles and Jenny just shook her head, refusing to look. She grabbed my hand and we left, her tires squealing as we sped out of my driveway. I asked her what she had seen, but she just shook her head and quietly cried. Once we were in her house, she took my hands and stared at me with wide, pleading eyes. It was your rabbit, she started. Her hands were cold and trembling. I could feel tears welling up in my eyes. But it wasn't your rabbit. She paused to find her words. I walked in and I saw its head peek out from underneath, but it didn't look right. Its neck was. Bent and its eyes were bleeding. I covered my mouth to stop myself from wailing. I didn't know what to say, or even what to think. All I know is that Bandit is dead and there's something under my bed. And I don't think it's human.